Hello everyone, this is Australian Chronicles and today I have with me my friend Arjun. Hey Arjun,
Hey,
how are
man.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. So we were having this chat and I thought of making a video out of it. So I'm just gonna make this entire video sort of a podcast but an informative one, especially for international students. So I have heaps of questions coming for you, out of which the very first that I'm interested to ask you is, can you share a bit about your entire journey to Australia and what brought you here? I remember you said that you came back 8 years before. So, what made you choose Australia and why are you planning to stay here permanently?
So, first, I'd just like to say thank you, Marish, for having me here. I did see the questions and I did prepare accordingly, and I think that the questions you prepared were very insightful. And based on the type of videos you make, this video, I'm sure, if I at least give the information properly, will definitely help people. Regarding why I came to Australia, I grew up in many countries. I grew up in the Middle East. I grew up in Africa. I grew up in South Pacific because of my father's job. He was working as a banker. And I did my final few years of schooling in Fiji. In Fiji, all the people there were studying the Australian system. And I saw everyone going to Australia. And I became friends with the people who were 1 or 2 years above me, and they said they were going to Australia, and I always thought I wanted to go to US or UK because this is the standard place, right?
Yeah.
Then these people were going to Australia, then I said, why don't I just search it and see a little bit about it. While I was in school, I think class 11, class 12, I did take a trip to Australia. I loved it, and then I decided I'd explore doing university. So actually, what I did was in 2017 of Feb is when I first came to Australia as a student, and I went to Perth, the University of Western Australia, where I did a Bachelor of Commerce. And actually, if I'm being honest, I did not meet the requirement to get into University of Western Australia, so I did something called a bridging course. So if you at any point have a dream university you want to go to and you cannot get there, often a lot of them have their own colleges. For example, Monash, if you do not meet the cutoff and you need a 90 but you got 85, you can actually maybe go to Monash College and do a diploma of commerce, and from there they have a system where you can transfer straight to second year Bachelor of Commerce. So you waste no time at all. The only difference is you do the first year at Monash College or whichever university college, and from there you transfer straight to second year. So this is a great way to actually get into the university of your choice. If you don't meet the cutoff mark, the university system is made in such a way that they allow for these what you call bridging courses. And from there, I went to Melbourne. I studied at Monash University, and since then, I've been stationed in Melbourne. I have no family or friends in Australia. I just came here with ambitions for a new life, and I have no regrets. And Melbourne now is home, and I was working in the government here as a social worker. And I guess in the coming questions we'll talk more about that. And now I'm doing a full-time MBA because I wanted to take a slight pivot from social work or a career pause, which was intentional, such that I could deepen my horizons.
Well, that was pretty insightful. There are some of the things that even I wasn't really aware of, and I'm sure international students like me, like us, wouldn't be aware. So this was helpful, and we actually met on a hike 2 years ago. And I also remember that at the time you were working as a full-time social worker. So what was it like balancing a full-time career as being a social worker and juggling your life in Australia?
I think this is actually a very relevant question. Social work is something that a lot of people are interested in pursuing these days. And if you don't mind me plugging my channel, I have a channel called Arjun, and I have an entire playlist just dedicated to social work, the benefits of a career in social work in Australia, the challenges, key social work context and terms and vocabulary you should know, how to crack social work interviews, how to get a job, all of this. So if you want to properly get in depth about the mechanisms of social work and the ecosystem in Australia, I highly recommend you check out that channel. There's a lot of in-depth information.
Shout out.
And oftentimes, if you do leave a comment, I do try my best to get back to it and answer, because I very much know the position of someone who is wanting to study social work, but there's no information. That's the reason I started the YouTube, because I wanted to provide some insightful content, just like you did.
Yeah.
Because you realized that there was information, that you were not getting. So why can't you follow in those steps and you provide that information to people,
Right.
which is very good. So in regards to just on a general level, balancing a full-time career in social work with a personal life is very difficult because it's very demanding work you're doing. As a social worker, you can work in different fields. You can work in mental health, you can work in domestic violence, you can work in hospitals. All of this is difficult stuff because you're working with people who are in a bad crisis in their lives. When people are upset, the first people they unfortunately go to is the first people in contact, which will be the doctors, nurses, whoever it is. So you are at the receiving end of quite a bit of maybe not malice, but stress and trauma. So you need to basically distinguish between a personal life and a work life. And getting that hat on from a social work hat to a personal life, that can be a little bit hard because it's very hard to not carry that burden home, that emotional burden. Having said that, it is a rewarding job, especially if you want to grow in the field, in the career. You can also change to different areas. You can change from maybe child protection to domestic violence to hospitals. There's a lot of scope there, and there's always demand for social workers. For the last 8-9 years, it's been in demand. So this is a very good thing. In terms of making friends, if you are a male in the social work career, you're a minority. There's not many males. Most of the people working are Anglo-Saxon or Australian middle-aged women. So in terms of actually forming friendships, that would be a little hard probably because a lot of them have their kids, their families and everything. But in terms of making friendships, you can do that outside probably in your own way.
Speaking of that, you said that you can make friendships in your own way, and that reminds me that you have quite recently started something on your own. Would you like to shed some light on that?
Yeah, thanks so much for bringing that up. Actually, I noticed that loneliness in this country, it's not just a problem, but it's a crisis. And we see loneliness is actually shockingly on the highest for young people, which is absurd to think. I'm not going to get into the whole complexity of why, the socio-economic factors and all, but basically it's a big issue. So I decided that I will start a small grassroots project called Social Threads. This is a very new project, and basically it's me volunteering my time and doing workshops in places where populations are most vulnerable, community centers where it can give a chance for people to mingle, come together, and also leave the workshop empowered, confident, and with resources and tools to continue making friends in the community. We see a lot of people want friends, but they don't know how. And we want to set up toolkits and systems where people know how they can navigate this ecosystem. Actually, the most vulnerable people to loneliness are international migrants and the elderly. So it's actually very important that international students and migrants actually know how and where to make friends, because everyone wants to make friends, but they don't know how. And if we empower people with the toolkits for doing this, it'll actually contribute to a more connected society. And I think loneliness can actually be better addressed from a community, simple, fundamental level than from an up government society policy level.
That's so very well put, and I hope that small project of yours turns out to be something monumental in terms of providing values for any person of any socioeconomic backgrounds. So because the cause that you're working for is tremendous, and I hope you the very best for it.
Thank you so much. And also, if anyone is on LinkedIn, I do have a page for it right now, and it's called Social Threads. So you can check it out. And I also, if you don't mind me adding, I have started a small project on the social media end where I'm doing 1,000 tips. So basically making friend tips from everyday people, and the goal is to get to 1,000. So everyone, just a 10-15 second video about how they made a friend in Australia, where they're from. And the hope is that it will destigmatize the feeling of loneliness, but at the same time, someone who's lonely, who doesn't have friends and wants to make friends, they'll come across one of 1,000 tips and maybe they can use it in their own lives.
So what's the one thing that you're looking forward to when you're now studying at RMIT University, and how has it changed your perspective studying elsewhere?
Oh, that's a very relevant question. So I've studied at University of Western Australia in Perth, Monash and RMIT. I would say that what I've noticed about UWA and Monash is that there's much more of a social life. In RMIT, a lot of the students just come, attend class, and they quickly go to their jobs or families or whatever else. So I think it's more like an institute at RMIT. It could also be because this is a city campus and it's a bit busy. People are rushing, getting from place to place. They have places to be. But at Monash and UWA, there's vast expanses of land. And because of that, people are kind of sauntering, they're walking from one building to the other, and it's a lot of fields and gardens in between, so people are actually taking in time to view the nature and things of this nature. So because of this, I think there was more of a chance to socialize, there was more of a collectivist approach. Having said that, in terms of the quality of education, I would say that UWA, Monash, and RMIT, the quality is the same from what I've seen. The quality of teachers are the same, and even the online learning systems are the same. The way lectures and classes are structured, the assessment formulas and the rubric and the assessment briefs, it's all almost identical. I actually have got the chance to speak with some lecturers personally and form some rapport with them. A lot of them actually teach at University of Melbourne and Monash, so they constantly are switching.
Yeah.
And this is normal because they're all government universities, public universities, so they keep going on contract to different places. So the quality of education, I would say it's pretty much the same.
Perfect. And as someone who's been in Australia for over 8 years now, how do you find the student life here compared to your early days? Any tips maybe for the international students just for adjusting life in Melbourne, because you never know who's coming here for the very first time, or maybe it's his second escapade. You never know.
So I think this is actually a very relevant question. I think as an international student, what you want to do is you want to just, it's very scary coming here, especially like when I came here, I had no friends, no family, no one. I just came here with a suitcase and I didn't even know where to start. The main thing is you want to obviously go and open up a bank account. This is one of the main things. You probably want to go to one of the main, most reliable banks. And normally international students, what I've seen, they tend to go to Combank. I don't know why, but a lot of them are just the closest to university, major university. So it's easiest to set up. So they have a whole ecosystem for that. Second is, I think you want to form some meaningful friendships. And the reason is because what I'm just starting to realize now, I know this sounds crazy, is that I've been applying for jobs on portals, but about 65% of the jobs are actually on a hidden job market where they are actually got around through word of mouth and through referrals. So if you have some friends, you can just say, hey, do you have any guidance on how you got this job? Or if they're very close, you can just say straight up and bluntly, I'm looking for work. Please could you give a word in? And what this helps you do is it gets your foot in the door. Maybe it will allow you to jump ahead of other people in that pile on the portal, and you can actually go and maybe see for an interview. So actually getting an interview is the main part that you want, because once you actually get an interview, it's much easier to even get a job offer. However, getting to that stage when you've got a portal and you're one of 500 applicants is a little hard. So the way people like to stand out is through reference.
Or either meetups.
Or meetups. And the way it works is basically they prefer reference because it's cheaper than advertising on the portal online. It'll cost companies less. And also, human instinct, we tend to trust people we know more. So you would be much more likely to hire someone who's actually a friend of a friend than someone you don't know, because at least there's proof that this person is probably reliable. Also, if you do have the budget, one of the best ways to make friends is actually going into a residential dorm. If you're in a residential dorm, they have an entire system for making friends. I made 99% of my friends in Perth when I actually first moved to the residential dorm. I would say that it is obviously very expensive. It's much more expensive than renting privately. With that said, you don't need to spend your entire 3-year degree or 2 years, however long it is, in the residential dorm. I would say if you're on a budget, try and budget just the first 6 months. Just the first 6 months in a residential dorm. Make some friends and get that whole social setup, because this environment is conducive to making friends. It's the easiest way to make friends. And after that, once you realize it's quite expensive, next semester onwards, find some friends and move into your private accommodation, but at least you've got that solid foundation of friendship.
Right. And that reminds me that you've traveled all over Australia, so which is obviously very exciting. But what's the one place that you've visited and that has completely surprised you?
I'd say everything about Australia is kind of paradoxical in itself, because before you come to Australia, you just think that maybe it's outback. But outback is just the tip of the iceberg. You have, in one state, you have the outback, you have meadows, you have rivers, you have the ocean, you have the beach, you have lakes, you have mountains, you have snow. I mean, it's just endless. You will literally think you're on a whole separate continent, and each time you go to a different area, it's like you're entering a whole new paradise. So what I can say for sure is there is so much to see within the state of Victoria, just like there is in New South Wales, just like there is in Northern Territory. And bear in mind that also the climates change place by place. But within these climates, you also have microclimates, and with that comes different types of nature, different types of hikes, different types of experience, different types of outdoor activities. But if I can recommend a couple places to see, if you're in Victoria, it'll be Great Ocean Road. For hiking, obviously we are both hiking enthusiasts. It'll be Grampians, it'll be Warrandyte National Park, it'll be Listerfield, it'll maybe
Leatherdark.
Leatherdark. Okay, we're laughing because we had a situation there on a group hike where we had the search and rescue operation come and save half of the group. What other hiking?
So
Mornington Peninsula and also Wilson's Promontory.
perfect. And speaking of the SES, okay, how do I ask, or how do I simply put it? Are there any funny or probably unexpected moments from your adventure that you think students would love to hear?
I think
Now that you've already given it away, so I'm just.
I think, well, what I can say is hiking is one of the, besides, like I was saying, if you go into a student dorm, you're setting yourself up for a good social foundation. Hiking is one of the best ways to meet people because you are bonding over nature. It's great for your mental clarity. You're bonding over something that you already have a shared interest in. So you're starting a foundation of friendship on common interest. And on top of that, when you're hiking, you're sharing adventures. You have hours together. So with this many hours, you have opportunities to actually have deep and meaningful conversations with people. So you can enjoy nature while connecting with people. It's the most simple and fundamental human experience, but the most beautiful thing. And at the same time, you can get into some sticky situations like we did with the search and rescue. We also have been in situations where some of these trails are very hard to navigate. So we finished, I think, what was meant to be a 4-hour hike in Castlemaine into actually a 7.5-hour hike or something like this. But this is part of the adventure, and I think this actually gets you closer to forming friendships because you're going through the trials and tribulations of a hike with different people. So it actually can be a social glue in a way. Also, one of the best ways to make friends is on hikes. So you can join Facebook groups like the Hiking Tribe, Mindfulness Hiking in Melbourne. There's also Beginners Hiking Grade 1 to 3 in Melbourne, which has about 11,000 people. And all of these hikes are free. You just click on the events page, and there's also many on the Meetup app. Meetup app is something that a lot of people use to form
Eventbrite as well.
Eventbrite as well. So you search up some hiking groups, and there's many consistent hiking groups. Some are ticketed, some are not. The ones that are ticketed normally are not too expensive, but that's because they organize logistics, first aid, health insurance, and things of this nature.
This is a known fact that getting a PR is a big milestone for many of the international students or immigrants. But can you share a bit about what the process was like for you and how has it changed your life in Australia? Because I believe you're on your PR and you're a full-time student, which means that you can work unrestricted hours, but that's not the case with the international students. So
if I could summarize PR in one word, it would just be flexibility. It gives you more. When you get a PR, you get access to social service, things like Centrelink. So there's the social net, which people love in, Canada and Denmark and Scandinavia and some European countries, is something that you will get in Australia. So it provides that job security as well, because oftentimes it's easier to get a job if you're a permanent resident or citizen because employers don't need to worry about your work hours and things of this nature.
And your visa end date as well.
And your visa end date, things of this nature. Also, you get something called Medicare, which is the state public health insurance, which allows you to access public health and hospitals and this under your permanent residency.
Did you apply it by your own, or did you choose an immigration agent?
So actually, it's funny that you say this. I applied for 3 student visas on my own, bridging visas on my own, and TR, which is the visa 485, which is what you get right after you graduate. Where when it was my time, it was 3 years of work.
It's still the same.
3 years, yeah,
I've got my
that
3
you
years.
get.
Yeah.
However, with the PR, because this was a high stake one, and this is everyone's high stake one that comes from overseas, I actually used the services of an agent.
Yeah.
That was the only time I used it because I didn't want to risk it. So with an agent, what you're doing is you're paying quite a bit of money for their services, but what you're guaranteeing is that you're paying for their experience. So you're paying a couple $1,000s for their services, but in my experience, I'd probably recommend it. For student visa, stuff like this, I wouldn't say it has high stake, but PR, if you have the means and the financials, I would say it's probably worth it. I went through an agent called RACC. A lot of people use them. They were quite good, and they have quite a large team speaking a variety of languages, and they were quite prompt and efficient, and that's all you really want. When you go through an agent, basically they tell you to provide all the documents and then you leave it to them. And what was useful was, because I had an agent, I remember they told me that we will inform you in a couple of months when we can lodge your application. And then I remember a week later, the agent quickly called and she said, okay, no, actually things have changed. The policy has changed. Quickly send your documents. This is one thing where it's clear, like, it's useful to have an agent. If I didn't have an agent, I wouldn't have known.
Right.
But you're basically paying for their experience. She quickly called me and she quickly managed everything and sent the documents off. If you do things by yourself, getting yourself out of that sticky situation might be hard. But if an agent does it, they probably have the connections and the knowledge to pull yourself back out. So you're basically paying to curb your risk. Once again, it's a bit expensive, but I think I would probably, for PR, recommend you use a reliable agent, especially one that maybe your friends have used before. Does that make sense?
And if you could give one piece of advice to the international students dreaming of studying maybe abroad or here in Australia, what would it be?
So I have given a couple tips about socialization, what you can do when you first come to Australia and things of this nature. I would give a few tips, but the main one would be that while you're in Australia, I have noticed many people from maybe the subcontinent or maybe certain countries, they automatically gravitate towards each other and they form their social groups accordingly based on people of their culture. This is normal because birds of a feather flock together. However, my belief truly is that if you want the most enriching and diverse and fulfilling experience in Australia, whether you're here studying, you plan to migrate, whether you plan to just be here for a short time, the best thing you can do is become friends with Australian people. It will give you a deep insight into the cultures, values of the people, and also try and diversify your friend circle. Try to have friends from different faiths, different backgrounds, different cultures, because this is what adds a lot of vibrance to life. I can assure you that some of the best interactions you have, and probably you would agree, is with people from different cultures to you.
Yep.
Because it completely opens your mind to ways of thinking, to perspective, to ways of life, and even activities. Because they do different activities, and then automatically you gravitate towards them, right? So it'll also allow you to expand the activities you do, the sports you do, the experiences you engage in. And another piece of advice is, this might sound very obvious, but actually I think a lot of people don't know. When you're in Australia, you need to be very aware of your rights. You need to be aware of your work rights. People can sometimes abuse you because you are an international student, but if you know the rights that you have under your visa, you know that you should not be paid below minimum wage on a cash basis. You should know all these types of things. If you read up on this, you will not be taken for a ride, because it's very easy for people to be taken for a ride. So just take care of that. Ask around. If you become friends with people who've been here for a while, ask them for advice. That's one of the best things you can do, because you're learning from their experience and their mistakes. Also, it's important to bear in mind that just because you are an international student or something does not mean that you do not have the right to safety. Now, I'm saying that sometimes people can get into relationships that are also in sticky situations, and they worry about repercussions of their visas and things. And what I'm talking about is, if you ever are in a relationship, you also do have access to domestic violence counseling. For example, Safe Steps, Relationships Australia, the Orange Door. These are all helplines, which if you are a victim of domestic violence, you should not fear calling them and asking for their help. And I'm just saying this because a lot of people fear about backlash for their visa and stuff, but if you're a victim, just remember that you have a right to safety. It doesn't matter wherever you are. And this is just something I'm adding because unfortunately domestic violence can hit anyone, and I'm saying it because I work in this field, so it's important for you to also be aware of your safety and the fact that you deserve safety. And also, if anyone wants to check out, he'll put my YouTube link below, and also the link to the LinkedIn page for Social Thread, so you guys can see all the stuff there, especially if you're looking to expand your social connections and connect with the community and improve your social connections. This is a great way to do it for Australia, because it's tailored for vulnerable groups in Australia, those including migrants and international students.
Perfect. That summarizes everything that an international student will have a key interest on. So I thank you so much for being here and for helping us international students. Until then, see you next time.